of it, take the manager, whoever that person is, they have to make that decision to say, I'm going to hold all of those reins. Now they're responsible for attending every meeting, making sure everything happens. Then they're not managing, they're doing it. If instead they say, no, it's Dana's responsibility to go to the finance committee and run the finance committee, however, or be that liaison, and report back to me what occurred, then that, as long as that works, then that's how it would work. Now, if that means that something happens and I have to sit here, or the manager has to sit here and say, something happened and I didn't know about it, well, then that's a reflection now to that manager to say, I was unaware of something. And that becomes the manager's responsibility.
In the end, you are accountable.
Right.
For your designee, for your agent, whoever you decide to put in charge of that committee, it all falls back on you.
Right.
So.
And that's the way it works in,
right.
in a staffing situation. We're just inserting volunteers into that staffing
and I think with the discussions that we just had, Blair, with your corrections, additions, whatever, and my additions that I had, I think this is okay.
And let me make one comment with regard to what Ms. Flowers brought up, and I think that traditionally those people that would serve as the manager's designee traditionally attend council meetings. For instance, Dana being the finance officer, to the extent that there was some committee that the manager felt that the town attorney needed to be the liaison. You have a current planner, and certainly have George here as well. I think it's going to be rare the case that the manager doesn't have his designee here to the extent that there are questions. But I think it does go back to your ultimate issue goes back to his responsibility as the manager. And I think that's how I'll take it forward.
And the chair is still responsible. The chair doesn't lose responsibility either. They're also responsible for running their committee at their level. So I mean, there's a series of responsible levels that are getting created. It's just that the manager now sits on not quite at the top because there's still the council of management, but there's more clear instruction as to how the reporting takes place and things of that nature.
Will you promise to do me one thing, Michael, as a parting gift? Will you promise that you will read the minutes before they are put in our packet and see if they're procedurally and correct?
Well, I can't change something that's already happened.
Well, you can bring it up so that it doesn't happen again.
Well, those are draft minutes that are presented.
Yeah, I know.
Before they get
But I know that you said before you didn't read them, you don't have time to read them, so that's my request that you read them. Because I won't be here to read them, so.
Let me just make one statement too. I think it's important to understand that the manager is not going to be attending all these committee meetings. So he's responsible for the committees, but he's not going to babysit. So it's not going to be that the manager is going to attend all these meetings or a designee is going to attend all these meetings. So these are a lot of meetings. So I think what's important to understand here is that it is the manager's role to instruct the committees on how to do their jobs and for the committees to do what they're supposed to report back to the manager. And if that's not occurring, that's where the manager's role comes into play. So, but
the minutes can be part of that report too. Michael chooses to make them, that can be part of that report. So
exactly. And, you know, minutes, and as committee members, we need to remember that those minutes are the communication. They can't be so small and so minute that they don't explain the meeting and what happened to council or whoever's reading them, that they need to really detail the meeting and what happened there, because that is our main line of communication for all of us. Because there's no reason to be doing report after report after report, because then you're not accomplishing the purpose of your committee. So if you do your minutes properly, that is your report, and then less interaction with everybody and less meetings outside of the actual committee meetings. Michael doesn't have to have meetings with the committee chairs to tell them to do what they're supposed to. Or, you know, they don't have to come to Michael and ask for things because it's in the minutes and he can see it. And being timely with those minutes, because that's part of the problem. The minutes, sometimes if we're getting months later, things have already occurred and the committee has decided to do something that the finance officer knows nothing about, and the finance officer saying, no way, you can't do that.
Well, see, that's going to stop. All that's going to stop. It's going to be done right. In 60 days, everything's gonna be done right.
So that's what I'm getting to here, is that it's not gonna be a matter of the manager attending all those meetings. Because I heard that said about the manager leaving a meeting, well, he's not gonna be at all those meetings, so.
You know, this was something that happened, and when I asked a question, this is what the answer was, and that's why I asked if he's willing to accept the responsibility for what goes on at the meetings, even if he's not aware of what goes on.
There's two other factors, and just again, this isn't a magic bullet, okay? This doesn't solve every single problem that we face before the town starts. Second of all, our committees are volunteers. And, you know, yes, they can train, yes, they can have instruction, but there are going to be, you know, times when things aren't going to work exactly the way as planned. The key to it is that there's a procedure, there's a method, there's training to the method, and, you know, if we reach 95%, then we're doing really well. So, you know, but it's not a magic bullet. It's not going to fix every problem, because I think people perceive the problems differently, and so it may not fix some person's problem because it never was intended to fix that problem. So I just want to point that out.
I think the main thrust of this is just, and the committees are volunteers and they do a good job, but I think sometimes they need some guidance, and that's going to come from you.
That's what this ordinance is trying to do.
And to that end, the manager and I have discussed potentially an annual training by either staff or legal staff of just a reminder, here are your procedures, here are your P's and Q's, and this is what to do.
And I'm sure that some committee members will have lots of questions to ask.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I think that's a good thing.
Just to reiterate, Mr. Mayor, I think you have before you a discussion item, and it's listed under discussion item. If the council chooses to vote tonight, certainly they can. This is not an ordinance that needs a public hearing. And you can recommend that it be approved with the comments, incorporating the comments by council. Or certainly it is a discussion item, and you can place it on December's agenda for a vote and have the final ordinance incorporating all the discussion items that we've just had. And certainly I'm not dictating how the council should act, but I'm just providing alternatives as to which way to turn.
Mayor, I don't like to approve anything I don't see.
Well, I would like to recommend that we don't do it tonight, because this is not our format of ordinance, so I want to at least put it through our proper format.
Okay.
This answers my questions that I had.
Can I request that if you put it in ordinance and send it to us to look over, like ahead of the packet, and then if we have any comments or questions, we can get back with you, and then put the final form after that, that would be good if it was underneath.
Just to make sure that I understand, and Blair understands, basically the items in red are the items that are agreed to be replaced with additional comment in B1 that addresses the ethics conflict.
I think there's another
Take out
issue.
C completely.
And see what's
And C was deleted, right?
Okay.
Which is noted here.
I think based on comments that B1 has to be massaged a little bit to say that all applicants will come before the council with some recommendation from the manager. And differentiate that from those requested by the manager to be removed. Please, Dan.
I was just gonna say, and exactly your words when you said it the first time, the manager, and you can just insert right there, shall bring forth all applications.
Correct.
And insert right there.
So that is a change that I noted, and of course the manager just talked about an additional change to that very item, which was to incorporate by reference the ethics policy in the ordinance with regard to committees.
Yeah, that's what I just like to see, all that verbiage changed, and
Sure.
to look at that, doesn't have to
Sure.
be, you know, final,
Right.
correct presentation, but just to have it all written down, what we talked about.
Let me ask one question. F, we changed E to be E1 and F. Let me just ask this, because I don't know the intent of these items, I wasn't involved in these meetings. Should that